All right.
Hi, you're listening to the App Business Podcast. This is the live version on blab.im. Join us every Thursday, except for Thanksgiving, at 4 p.m. Pacific, blab.im. You can check out the show notes on the ABP, or you can go to blab.im and type in my last name, Chiji, and you'll see the next scheduled blab. But this is the mobile app news episode. So if you're listening in your car on a Monday, you're listening to the right thing. In fact, you're probably used to us talking about this blab.im thing. My name is Chris Chigi, joined by Andrew Hubbard. What's up, dude?
Hey, how you doing, Chris?
Good.
Yeah, and you can also, if you follow Chris on Blab, you can follow people, similar to Twitter. You'll get updates of when we're live and stuff anyway. It'll automatically come through and say, hey, Chris is live. Yeah. So, and if you're watching the replay, give us some high fives. If you hear things that or if you're live, give us some high fives if we mention anything that you like, or if you're enjoying the conversation. We've got a bunch of news this week. Where do you want to start it, Chris?
Start right at the first item here. Go for
Let's do it. Smarto. So Smarto came out with a new report, and they're basically talking about mobile advertising soaring in developing countries. So, some huge movements there. We've talked about this one before, but I mean, just to put some numbers behind it in this report, so I was saying Venezuela and Indonesia grew by 91% and 84% in the third quarter. That's the mobile advertising revenue in those countries. So that's massive, right? Like 91 and 84%, big growth.
Yeah, so the emphasis of the report was kind of like Southeast Asia and Latin America, right? Kind of like I don't know where Southeast Asia what you would count as Southeast Asia, but apparently Japan and South Korea aren't in there. I immediately, when I think of developing countries or Latin America and Southeast Asia, I think of, well, those are mobile first countries. Maybe those are the first devices. A lot of the people, people who don't have computers have smartphones. That's kind of like the trend. But they kind of addressed that in the report, saying, look, mobile first countries, India and Russia, Latin America, and while some of that's true in Latin America and Southeast Asia, it really is more about the spike in usage of, there's a ton of things that are causing this, but it was worth reading the report because my assumption was automatically like, well, it's more than just that, right? It's more than just, hey, it's mobile first. It's that there is an underlying trend with those eyeballs being more valuable, the mass adoption of smartphones there, more usage of smartphones, et cetera.
Yep. And and as Mark Johnson just pointed out in the chat here, a lot of free games they soft launch in Southeast Asia. And I think that, like Mark said, they require ads. And I think he's posing it more of a question, but I tend to agree with him. I think that's probably having some influence. You got a lot of this soft launch process is becoming more popular. You got a lot of apps soft launching in countries like Southeast Asia, maybe Latin America. I'm not sure if that's as popular for soft launches, but yeah, they definitely would be pushing ads and buying ads when they do those soft launches.
Andrew,
this is talking impressions though, yeah?
What do you mean impressions? No, this is talking the amount of money
the revenue.
spent.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
So when you do your Facebook ads, do you notice like what is the percent difference? Is it 3x US and Australia compared to Latin America, Colombia? Or is it less?
In some cases easily. Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Yep. Depending on the country you pick. But yeah, in some cases it can easily be 5 to 10x.
Wow. Okay.
Difference between install costs.
And that's with you selecting English in both as a default language, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, interesting.
But yeah. In the countries that these guys will be soft launching in, there's probably not a 5 to 10x difference. It's probably closer to, 3x or 3 to 5x maybe.
Okay. Next news item. And this is a big one, but there's just so much mystery about this stuff. It's hard to really dig in too much. But there was another obvious update in how Apple is indexing or ranking mobile apps. And these things are always met with so much, oh, this is what happened, or that's what happened. Like so much, people are so confident in their analysis. And I don't know that I think I tend to just kind of take the why it's happened with a grain of salt. Is that how you say that? With a grain of salt?
Yeah.
But it's the first question to ask is, did something happen? And it's pretty clear that there was some kind of update. And I think it happened, November 5th? Is that what we decided? Or
they said beginning November 3, and it happened, there were more changes through to about November 6, and there's some speculation that small changes are still happening every now and then as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not like Google where they announce, hey, we're releasing Penguin, here's what Penguin's, I think that's what Google does with web search, is they kind of announce that there's these new algorithm changes and what to prepare for. Apple just doesn't even mention that they're doing anything,
No, that's right. And like this was a big change. So you saw a lot of apps changing the keywords they're ranking for. So either ranking for new keywords they didn't rank for previously, or not ranking as highly for keywords that they previously ranked for. And also category rankings changed as well. So apps that were previously at the top of their particular categories started to move around there. Whether that was a flow-on effect of ranking differently for their keywords, so they're not getting found as regularly through keyword search, means they're not getting as many downloads, means that naturally flows through to lower category rankings. Not too sure. But yeah, definitely something happened. And it looks like it's related to LSI keywords. So that's the current speculation. LSI keywords being linguistic something indexing, semantic indexing.
There you go.
And it's basically, finding like keywords. So Google do it as well. But, so it's matching up one word and also matching for other words that mean the same thing, basically, or are similar.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So there's a TechCrunch article talking about it, and they use an example about Twitter. And that used to be my go-to example for showing how I felt like App Store search was broken, where you type in Twitter, and Twitter would be number one, and number two would be Google Plus, and number three would be, it was like they had it like the other top social networks, nothing related to Twitter. And it was like, hold on, what if I'm looking for, I think the example was Tweetbot or something like that. Yeah, Tweetbot, Twitterific. Things that are related to Twitter. That makes more sense. So I don't know how specifically they're doing that, algorithmically, but that's definitely a change. And I think Apple, even though they're not as savvy as Google when it comes to index and search and all that stuff, the goal is to provide searchers relevant results. So if you're creating an app listing that targets who you want to target, then I think you're in good shape, because that's what Apple wants to. That was Google's guidance forever. Just make stuff that people want to find, because that's what we're trying to get to.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And there was a second one that came out from Sensor Tower today as well about this, because a lot of these big players hadn't really weighed in, and I think it was because it was such a shock. No one saw it coming, and it was such a big change that no one was really prepared to analyze it without really digging into the data. So the interesting thing about Sensor Tower's quick analysis that they released was basically showing keyword rankings for a single keyword. So they used wealth as the example.
Yeah.
And they were showing that on November 2nd, the top 10 apps listed when you search for wealth were things like, The Secrets of Wealth and Success, Attract Wealth Hypnosis Free, SigFig Wealth Management for iPhone, CNBC. Everything was, either had wealth in the title or was directly related to wealth. On November 3rd, after the update, and this is kind of showing that I think, the update wasn't perfect in its in achieving its intent. If you search for wealth on November 3rd after the update, the number one result was Yahoo Weather. The second result was SigFig Wealth Management. The third one was Weather Underground. Fourth was My Radar Weather. So it seems like, with this LSI, they're trying to match similar words, but somehow wealth and weather, were linked together and stuff like that. So it just shows they're still working through it as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a weird typo to correct, but I mean, that's not even
Definitely.
an
Yeah.
LSI word. That'd be like a typo. But
Yeah.
uh,
Well, yeah, but it's like it's not like the search was correcting wealth to
yeah,
weather when you were
right,
typing. It was just it
right.
was you were submitting wealth and it was giving you back results for weather.
Yeah. I
Weird.
always been blown away by some of these things that you'd think that a company like Apple would have this so dialed in. But
Yeah.
we see it over and over again in the App Store that that's just not the case. Um, you know, one thing that I don't know that I've seen anyone write about, and this would be just totally guessing or speculation, but you know, the Spotlight search was said to be using the Apple bot, which is the thing that scours the web and indexes web pages. So maybe some of these words that apps are being ranked for, or some of the weight that they're given, is because they have a web property that's indexed and has certain words on it that um, are now being indexed and shown in App Store search results. Don't know that, but Apple just recently started using that for Siri and Spotlight, so there's no reason that they couldn't include that in their App Store ranking algorithm as well.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
It looks like
Cool. All right.
Mark's on that already.
Yeah, he's already into the Applebot stuff.
Yeah.
Early days though, hasn't got any results. It'd be cool to hear, Mark, later on when you do get some results, what you find.
Okay, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, so next one we're talking about Chrome, and they're basically saying that mobile Chrome, so the mobile Chrome app, doubled from 400 million to 800 million users in 12 months.
Yeah, that's across Android and iOS. But
Yeah.
basically, it just further tells the story of one, more usage in mobile, like unrelated to Chrome. Just more people are using mobile apps for more things. But Google announced like 3 weeks ago that global search, not local, not anything related to a location, just search in general, more comes from mobile devices than desktop. Crazy. And now here, Chrome, I guess I use Chrome as a browser, but I usually just open that up as my Google search. Like that's how I use Google search, is I open Chrome. Yeah, they doubled an already big number in 12 months. So
Yeah, and this is monthly active users. So across iOS and Android, we're talking 800 million monthly active users that they're at now. I guess one important thing to note is on an Android device, Chrome is the default browser, or it comes pre-installed. So the numbers are going to be bigger on the Android side. But yeah, very interesting.
Yep. We kind of have a couple Google ones in a row. There's a bunch of Google news. This one is a huge one. Facebook and Google created a partnership where any public posts in Facebook mobile app are now indexed by Google. That was met with this was from a Wall Street Journal article, but it's another story reinforcing the Google really wants to index what's going on in apps, and a lot's going on in Facebook. But kind of an interesting partnership for Facebook to say, yeah, index our app. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. But I mean, like you said, they're all about user experience and providing what their end users want. So I think part of that is not ignoring certain big players in the game just because they're a competitor.
From which perspective? Facebook cares about their users, so they want Google to be able to index it?
Well, both. So yeah, Facebook cares about their users, so they want Google to index it. But the same is from the Google side as well. So Google, they care about their users care about Facebook, so they should be indexing it as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So on a similar note, kind of similar, but it's Google related as well. And the next one, this is kind of big. Like this might change the whole app discovery, app sort of usage landscape. And basically, Google now let users basically open and test mobile apps without downloading them, right? So they're calling it, I forget the name that they're giving it, but it's like an insight sort of app streaming. That's right, app streaming. Yeah, so you can search through Google. An app might come in the results. They can click that, and somehow get to open and use the app without actually downloading and installing it on their phone. So they get to access it that way. Really interesting.
Yeah, interesting. It's only for a handful of apps. I think the idea is that it's publisher opt-in at some point, but it's not there yet. And I haven't been able to play with it. They just kind of have this like video or GIF that runs in their release, in Google's release on their blog. It sounds cool. I mean, it sounds cool and different, right? It sounds like a cool way to see what's going on in the app. It kind of loses me when they're saying there's a video where you interact with the video. Like that doesn't really make sense to me, but
yeah. So it's heavily tied to deep linking as well. So we covered that in an earlier episode this week. We talked about deep linking briefly, but so I think what's happening is basically search results show deep links to particular content in the app, and then you can like take action based on the deep link, like booking a hotel room and stuff like that. So It sounds like there's a lot going on with deep linking and finding out the core functions of the app, and then providing the deep link to that core function in the search results and allowing users to access it through that deep link.
But then ultimately to interact at all, you have to install the app, right?
Well, usually, but they're saying you don't. So
I don't get it.
Beats me. I don't get it either.
Like, okay, yeah, we'll have to wait and see that one. It doesn't even make sense. Like, okay, you're interacting with a video. Okay, so maybe you tap somewhere and the video responds, but like you can book a hotel through like a video, or it just doesn't, I don't understand. Do they video? Is there like a recording of what's happening in the app as if, like they're mirroring what's actually happening in the app from like a Google server? Anyways, what's cool about it is it's new, and it could have a huge implication on how you list your apps, how people discover apps, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Like so many of these things, we talk about these topics and we talk about them right when we read about them, sometimes before we've been able to play with them. And some of them end up being huge things. Like we were definitely right about this deep linking, app linking thing 6 months ago. We were definitely dialed in with the e-commerce direction. I got that. And some of the things we talk about, we never really hear from them again. And so we'll see which of these, where these things fall. Like the partnership with Facebook seems like a big deal. We'll see. The interacting with apps without having to install them seems like a big deal. I don't really get it, but we'll see. So.
Yeah, exactly right. So this is just straight off the Google press release. Wall Street Journal's picked it up, written an article about it. And over the next few days, weeks, tech guys are going to tear this apart, find out exactly how it works, and write a few more articles explaining, exactly what they're talking about. So we'll probably talk about this again next week and update on what's happening if we've got any news on it.
Yeah. Okay. We got one more topic, but so the guys in the chat, if you have anything that we missed and you want to either join us or you want to just type it in the chat, and maybe we are familiar with it, we just didn't add it to our list this week. Now's the time. A real quick announcement. We're not going to be having a live blab next Thursday because it's Thanksgiving. You celebrating Thanksgiving in Australia?
We don't do Thanksgiving. We pretty much do all the same holidays as you guys, except for Thanksgiving.
So I think Thanksgiving is essentially a harvest festival, right? It's like the end of the year. You get all the food. And since you guys are in a different hemisphere, it's not time to harvest food. It's time to plant food, right?
No, they're harvesting now.
Oh, well.
Now's our harvest time.
I thought I had it all figured out.
Apparently not.
So anyways, Thursday and Friday are basically going to be shut down in the US. Well, not shut down, but people hanging out with their families and traveling and probably shopping and all that stuff. So we're going to take a break from this blab and then we'll come back the following week. Okay. So that was one announcement. And then, we asked for if anyone had any topics, and Adrian gave us a topic about,
Adrian's talking about Thanksgiving. Is that
He's giving us an update on his friend's Thanksgiving plans.
So Adrian's in the chat as well. He's an Aussie, and he's telling us that he he does Thanksgiving. He's got a mate from Portland.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing Portland, Oregon, maybe. And they love it. They celebrate Thanksgiving. So some Aussies do celebrate Thanksgiving. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, we always, whenever I was abroad for Thanksgiving, we'd always be sure to host Thanksgiving because it's not like Christmas where you give gifts. It's just like a gluttony fest where you like eat turkey and potatoes and drink wine. And it's just kind of like a fun, chill day where you just hang out and watch football. So I'm a fan. All right.
Cool.
Last topic. And this one's kind of a short one, but worth mentioning. If you guys are following like world events with currency manipulation and all the stuff that's going on with how different countries are kind of constantly changing the value of their currencies, and couple that with the rise of smartphones, specifically Android, in some of these developing countries, the Google Play now allows in-app purchases to be set for less than 99 cents, which I think is a really interesting, cool move by them.
Yeah, so it's only in 17 countries at the moment where you can set your in-app purchase or paid app pricing for less than 99 US cents. We can go through the list quickly. Basically, it's Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Hungary, Indonesia, Malaysia, Mexico, Peru, Philippines, Poland, Russia, Saudi Arabia, South Africa, Thailand, Turkey, Ukraine, and Vietnam. And the new minimum prices go all the way down to 21 cents in India, to 45 cents in Poland. So pretty cool. Yeah.
Just another thing, if you've got Google Play apps and you're getting traction, or you're getting downloads and no traction in some of these countries. And even just what we talked about at the top was Southeast Asia and Latin America. And half of that list was Southeast Asia and Latin America. So that area of the world, those areas of the world are growing.
So I'll go for it, Chris.
I was going to say, just to respond, Adrian asked in the chat, what's the reasoning behind that less disposable income? And I think that's a lot of it. You go to outside of the big cities. My experience in Colombia was Bogota's expensive. Like Bogota might as well be Chicago. But you go outside an hour and a half, and all of a sudden you get ice cream for 10 cents and a big bag of tomatoes and onions and garlic and all this stuff and a big side of beef for $4. It's just, less disposable income for sure.
And Google Google are making big plays in those markets as well. Like we're seeing, $10, $20 Android-based smartphones being released to those markets because they're making an aggressive push there to get a foothold in these emerging markets as well. So this is just another play at that, I think.
Yeah, and this is where I think Google with Android and Apple, the differences between their strategies really are apparent, where it almost seems like, okay, if Facebook's trying to connect the world to the internet, right, and that's one of their stated goals, Google is like, okay, we want as many data sources as we can. We want as many inputs for data as we can. So if you're a guy who works on a farm or somewhere 2 hours outside of Bogota in Colombia, that's still valuable, super valuable to Google. Where for Apple, they're like, well, that's not our target market. We have no interest. And that's it. Mm-hmm. And so you see these different, like you said, the $10 smartphone. Was it $10? That's the low end smartphone.
Yeah, from memory, I've got a feeling we saw a $10 one, didn't we?
Yeah, something like that. It was like under $50. So that's just, Google would do that and Apple would never do that,
Well, I think that's a big part of the play. And I think the second part is Google realized that they won't remain as emerging economies forever. They'll soon move up to that larger middle class. They'll have more disposable income. And if they bring them onto the Android platform early, they're more likely to stay rather than moving away to Apple and whatever later. If they're already in the Android ecosystem from day one when they get a smartphone, and for the next 10 years they're using Android, then they're probably going to stay that way when they can afford an Apple phone anyway.
There's a report this week that came out from Ericsson, and they talked about, mobile or Windows phones, they're going to Android, and then Apple phones or iOS goes right back to iOS. Android goes right back to Android, and the Android to iOS and the iOS to Android is like less than 1%. It was like 0.4% and 0.6%. So people, I would say, gosh, there's not that much of a difference, but apparently people find themselves really connected to a platform, and they're into it. With computers, it's more obvious, I think, but with Android and iOS, I guess people find what they're comfortable with and stick with it. Makes for a very valuable acquisition of a customer if they stick around for 10 years,
Absolutely. Yeah. Definitely. Cool.
All right, guys.
Well, that's
I think
all
that's
we had
it
in the news.
Yeah. I actually got a high five. I think that's my first high five that you didn't give me. So I appreciate that.
I didn't give you one, so you've got two.
Nice.
Yeah. Good work.
All right, guys. This is airing Monday, and then we'll post the video too. If you guys want to see our shiny faces, smiling faces on YouTube. Do we post anywhere else? YouTube and in the Facebook group, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
And then on Blab. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So we got an episode coming up Wednesday, and then that's it. No Thursday episode, and then we'll again be going the next week.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, guys who are here. Appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys on the next App Business podcast.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.